Theo, are we on schedule?
One more to go, then it's up to you. And you better be right.
Just like it should at Yuletide. The parcels are all under the tree, right where they should be. Soon everything is Christmas-fied. Disney bona fide. And so are all of you. So fast, I wish I could somehow make them last. Put it in a bottle, stick a label on, saying do not open till summer comes. Right now, let's savor this, and underneath the mistletoe, get a kiss. The rest of the year may be hard to come by, so right now I'm gonna give it a try. And so are all of you.
Theo, are we on schedule?
One more to go, then it's up to you. And you better be right, because it looks like this last one's gonna take a miracle.
It's Christmas, Theo. It's the time of miracles, so be of good cheer and call me when you hit the last lot.
And so are all of you, come true, and so are you, Does this come true? Only once a year. Only once a year. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good.
Hey, if any of you are looking for any last minute gift ideas for me, I have one. I'd like Jeff Bezos brought here tonight from his happy holiday internet slumber over there on Melody Lane with all the other rich billionaires. And I'd like to have him brought here with a big ribbon on his head, because I want to look him straight in the eye and I want to tell him what a cheap, lying, no good, rotten, floor-flushing, inbred, overstuffed, dirt-eating, ignorant, blood-sucking, dog-kissing, brainless, dickless, hopeless, heartless, fat-ass, bug-eyed, stiff-legged, spot-lipped, worm-headed sack of monkey shit he is. Hallelujah. Woo. Holy shit. Where's the Tylenol? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Joe Gets Twitchy tonight. How you all doing? It's nice to see you. Welcome to the show. Little bit of a familiar Christmas rant to start things off, huh? Welcome, everybody. It's the last one of 2020. So this is our mid-season finale, so to speak. I'll be back in 2021. I'm sure there'll be plenty of things for me to rant about during that time, I'm sure. And that's great. I'm already looking at the comments here, and actually, that's from Christmas Vacation. There, baby eating psychopath, but which is it's available everywhere, so you can get it. But I'll send you a link if you need it. But that being said, was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, the only thing that's stirring is Joe's big mouth, and I'm ready to just say good cheer to everybody. Thank everybody for what has been a phenomenal year. And I'm just excited that 2020 is finally coming to an end. I mean, I think we all are a little bit excited about that. And what's ironic about thinking about, looking back at 2020 is that the idea is, if I look at all the art that I had to choose from and figure out doing my top 5 lists this past month or so, this last 2 or 3 weeks, there was a lot of good stuff out there. Three Furious Press put out a lot of stuff, a lot of great stuff. There was some really great books put out by other presses out there, Falstaff Books, Red Askew. I mean, a lot of great indie books were published this year. A lot of great indie music was produced. Some that got me through the better times. Some I'll introduce you to tonight. And then the indie film world was actually the hardest 5 to come up with, because I felt like the indie film world kind of fell short this year. There wasn't as much good stuff out there. I think the film industry kind of grinded to a halt past June, and I mean, it's starting to ramp up again. And there are a lot of indie films out there, but I scrambled a little bit for that list, to be honest with you. I had a hard time narrowing down the books and the music list, but for the film list, it was a little bit easier. It was a little bit tougher to find 5 really good films, but it was a little easier to make sure that I had 5. But yeah, it's, we've had a year, obviously COVID, but the pandemic, but, in the world of indie, we've had just this tremendous crap storm of, it started with the RMA imploding over, Own Voices book. And then we had, later on in the year, of course, toward the end of the year, Audible Gates and all of that fun stuff, trying to figure out where our favorite cons and film festivals and putting those online and trying to get, an online festival together and all of those things. There's just been so much, the music industry going through kind of an influx, the support for indie bookstores, indie comic stores. I mean, it's just been one of those tumultuous, just crazy, jam-packed years. I mean, Book Expo closing its doors, an institution, a 94-year-old traditional publishing house being sold. I mean, it's crazy. Macmillan shutting its doors and not operating at the Plaza address it's been operating for the last 55 years. I mean, so much has gone on in this tumultuous world and year for indies especially. And so I celebrate all of you for making it through that, looking forward, as we should be looking forward. We should be just looking at what we have to accomplish in the next year. I think it's going to be amazing. I think 2021 is going to be our year. We're going to set the world ablaze, and I can't wait. And I'm real excited for that. I think every single one of you for helping GoIndieNow grow this year. We did grow, and it's been tremendous. And we've put out some really, really great stuff. And that's all because you guys all participated and were a part of it. And then you watched it and you shared it and you liked it and you commented. All those things really, really made an incredible, incredible year for GoIndieNow. So I can't thank you enough for all of that. It's been amazing. I was thinking about this idea. The grand debate right around this time is what constitutes Christmas spirit, right? I mean, in the movies, we have this grand debate about what is a Christmas movie. In music, we even have this debate: is it not okay to make a non-traditional Christmas song, but make something, a song, that has a holiday flair to it? And I was thinking about this in the context of, how many people have put out so many different things. And our friend, a mutual indie, Jim Jackson, put out this incredible Christmas song, which I think sounds kind of like the opening to a James Bond movie. It's really cool. I'll put the link in the description so everybody can go check it out, as I will of all the things I'm going to talk about tonight. And that really got me thinking about this topic. And, obviously Die Hard is the quintessential debate, whether that is a Christmas movie. Yes, Josh brings up Lethal Weapon. That is another one of those. It's very interesting that we have each side of the argument there, and I'm of the ilk that who cares if as long as it's a good movie. I mean, I'd watch Die Hard in August. I don't care, that it's. I get it. There's some traditional things. Ronin, there you go, Ronin. There's so many things that have little like hints of Christmas in them that you could apply to it being a Christmas movie. And Anita says Die Hard is a Christmas movie, but I'll do Home Alone in June. Yeah, see, I mean, that's me too. I really feel like the idea that it's a Christmas movie is almost as bombastic as it's an indie movie or an indie book or an indie song. It's indie music, that's that to me. And one of the films that I selected this year for the top 5 really brought this home to me. And that is the idea that actually one of the indie books did as well, that when it's done right, and especially in the indie world, it's almost like people think it's a magic trick. Like people think that, oh my God, this is amazing for an indie film, or it's amazing for a self-published book or a small press book. I mean, it's good for that, when it's really good all around. I mean, one of the books that I selected on my top 5 made top 20 lists on the New York Times, on Publishers Weekly, because it's a good fucking book. It's really well done. And yes, it was made by a small press, but who gives a crap? I mean, we would all just like to be referred to as artists. And I think that also brings home the idea of own voices and the idea of, this whole notion that we can't all be just labeled as artists. I mean, own voices needs representation. It needs to have, and it's important to have that. And especially important in this day and age, and especially this year. But a lot of the people you talk to about that will say, well, yeah, but I'm also an artist and I would like to be acknowledged as an artist. And I think that is such an interesting and ideal point, because, we get labeled a lot of times, or these, stigmas or expectations get placed upon us because of how we decide to put about this art. We all make art we don't make it all the same way, but we make art with the intention and passion that we're making something that we want to put out to the world. And I think that should be the overlying idea. And that should, more people definitely need to see it, read it, listen to it, whatever the case may be. But that is something that, of course, GoIndieNow strives to do, and we're going to continue to do and put it out there along those lines. I'll unveil some top 5 lists tonight, but it's, we need to stop labeling things. I just think that that's just what it's about. I mean, enjoy it for what it is. Enjoy that you like it. There's nothing wrong with liking it. It's not a broken winged blue jay. Oh, we have to take care of it. We have to love it and squeeze it and hug it and yay. But no, it is something you like. Who cares if somebody else doesn't like it, or you're the only one that likes it? Who gives a shit? You like it. That's all that matters. And the other thing about being artists is you put it out there, and there is a audience for everything. So on that other side of the coin, it's like we need to just not be afraid anymore. We need to go out there and do it. Put it out there. Make it happen. And the cool thing about being indie is that we can do it at our own pace and our own timeline and do it the right way. So we can take our time. We can put it out there and make sure that it's the best thing that we could possibly put out there. So I really think that's the whole idea. Josh says, I like Matrix Revolutions. There, I said it. All right, brother, go for it. I love it. It has to be about passion and going for it. Yes, I heart this message. Thank you, sir. Yes, I just think it's super important. That being said, let's recognize some artists here tonight. I'm going to take this opportunity to recognize some artists that I felt had a fantastic year and that I liked personally and I enjoyed. And this is just me. Although I do represent GoIndieNow, and more into the future, I will get a more consensus view and we'll do it that way. But this really is Joe Compton's GoIndieNow picks. So when I say GoIndieNow, that's from my soul. We will have some people who we'll be talking on Sunday with their picks as well. GoIndieNow producers and contributors of our show. We have some great picks, and we're going to talk a little bit about artistry and what constitutes, because again, this was something that was brought up when we were talking about getting together on Sunday and doing these lists and how do we go about this is it truly indie enough to be represented on these lists? And that's something we were thinking about and talking about, and that's what brought up this idea for me. So I think yes, there is a line between traditional and indie in that respect, and we're trying to honor things that normally wouldn't, that don't get enough attention to them. And that's what we're trying to do. And a lot of these things, they have a lot of attention to them already as well. But I just can't help it. The things that have a lot of attention to them, you're just going to have to get over the fact that they have a lot of attention already. But they are indie, and they deserve recognition for the beauty that they've created, the art that they've created. And I'm going to go for it and do that. So with that being said, why don't we start our countdown, since I've got a nice audience here and I know what they like. I'll give you my number 5, number 4, and number 3 indie books of 2020. These are selections that I've made. I will caveat this. I will put this out there. I literally read 16 entire books this year. So it was pretty easy to make a list like this for me because I only had 16 to choose from. But I did actually invest time and look at other books and things of that nature. So I'm not as well read as some people out there. So, but I'm realizing that I do have things that I kind of like. So I'm real excited about that idea. But my number 5 pick, as if you were watching Spilling Ink, you saw this already, but my number 5 pick for book of indie book of 2020. My fifth favorite book of 2020. And again, these numbers are arbitrary. Really, they can be, mixed in, 5, 4, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2. There's not a whole lot of difference between them. It's a very, very limited, differential that I just placed them in. And I, as people will know about me, love poetry. I love and I look for a poetry book. If I can find one every year to include in my list, that is my goal every year, is to at least find 2 or 3 that I can talk about. And one in particular made my top 5 list this year. It was Mirrors, book 1, In Thine Own Heart by Ed Souter. This book is absolutely phenomenal. The prose is absolutely so touching and engaging and so beautiful and so emotionally lifted and charged. It's really, it reads a lot like a love letter to his wife, which is so beautiful and so amazing. And, as men, we are taught oftentimes that showing our emotions and sharing our emotions is not manly, which is just garbage, because this book really, really kicks that in the teeth and tells you, look, this is how we feel a lot of times. And you're going to relate on so many levels to this prose and the poetry that exists here. It's a very quick read. But as you know, with poetry, and one of the things that I absolutely 100% love about poetry is that the idea is poetry is one of those books that you marker, that you go back to. They're like you gravitate to a certain poem, or you gravitate to a certain line, or a certain prose, kind of like you do with movies. You quote movie lines. Well, I tend to quote prose lines from time to time, and there's a lot of great ones in this book, and there's a lot of ones that I've gone back to and reread and really examined and looked at from my perspective. So I'm real excited. That was my number 5 pick for just an amazing poetry book. So if you're trying to get into poetry too, this is what is really cool about Ed's book that I think is different from most poetry that I will put on lists. Typically, a lot of times there's a little stylistic element to the poetry that I like. There's a hook, or there's a gimmick, or there is, just this enormous amount of emotion pouring out, which this book does have that as well. But this book really breaks it down in terms of I hate to say simplistic, because that's not really fair, but it's very clean, it's very open, and there's still room for interpretation, but there's still also a lot of things that you would see very clearly. And I think Ed, of all the poets that I've liked over the years, Ed is one of those that really just, and maybe just because Ed and I connect so well. I know him personally. He's a good friend of mine. And so knowing him and that we're kind of similar in a lot of ways, and we talk a lot about how we're similar, I think maybe that's why I think it's a little bit more reads to me. But I do think that there is an openness to his poetry and his prose that is very, very interesting. And I think that if you're not a fan of poetry, or you're somebody who wants to get into poetry, this is a good starting point for that. I really think that it has that quality to it. So that's my number 5 book. My number 4 book, I will say before I unveil my number 4 book, that I had 3 books in this slot. And the one thing that I really, really love, I love how when a book grabs me right at the start. 3 books, 2 of the 3 of these books really had this incredible opening, and they grabbed me really fast. And for 10 pages, I was just enthralled. And then it kind of peaks and valleys, or it kind of dips. And that's not to say it's a bad dip or that it goes off the cliff or anything like that. But the difference between what I didn't choose and what I did choose in the number 4 slot was the idea that this book, which is from Three Furies Press, it's Maxwell Demon, L. Bachman. This book has one of the kick-ass endings of the year. In fact, it may be the best ended book of all of that I've read this year. It ends with this awesome fight, and it has this incredible moment, and it does this thing where it not only kind of wraps up what's going on with what you're reading, but it leads you into the next realm, and you realize that this could go on and move forward, and it does it seamlessly, which is what I think is just amazing about it. It is gruesome at times. It is grim. It is touching. It is just flooded with all kinds of different elements. And it's really an interesting, amazing read. You could call it kind of supernaturalistic horror, I guess, would be how I would kind of describe it. I mean, it's about angels and ascending heaven and hell and positionings and life, choices and eternity choices and things of that nature. And it's really centered around one particular character who has, a love, and there is also they have an enemy, and it's very, very cool. It is very cinematic, and I think that also, obviously, knowing who I am, gravitates me to it as well. It's beautiful. It's a great book. Maxwell Demon, my number 4 book for 2020, and my number 3 book is the book I was telling you about. This is the book that, if you read some of the reviews, you just want to throw things at the screen or on the back cover. I don't know why she included it to some of these on the back cover, but where it says, this is an indie book, and I can't believe that this is an indie book. I can't believe this is a small press released book, and that it's I can't believe this. This person should have been signed by Simon and Schuster. That was something that was in one of the reviews, and that just made me want to vomit. But this is my number 3 book of 2020. It's Tia May Hall's The Snow Collectors. It is not this talking about a book that opens. This opens with a dead body, and I'm not giving anything away by saying that, because the entire book is really about this person discovering this dead body and what they're going to do, and how it unravels into this incredible, not only mystery, but it unravels into all these kind of paranormal, supernaturalistic, weird incantations and interesting things that happen. It takes place during the Victorian era, which I'm finding that I kind of like when people go a little dark in that era and show a little bit of that gothic taste to it. This has a very good gothic flair to it. And yes, the murder mystery is kind of it's the forefront, but it's really the background. And it's not hard to figure out. It's not one of those books that, it may be one of those books that tries to trick you, but really what is tricking you about is not the murder mystery itself. What's tricking you about is all the things that connect around it and why they connect to it, which is very cool. But you know what? Here's the thing about, we try so hard sometimes as artists to be clever and trick people and give them, we're trying to be M. Night Shyamalan in The Sixth Sense, for example. And really, there's nothing wrong with being obvious. There's nothing wrong with coming to the conclusion that you need to come to. In fact, I think that is more riveting to me sometimes. It depends on, of course, how it's written and how it's brought to you. But, it's much more riveting than, say, you're introducing a character in page 3 or 4 that turns out to be the killer at the end of the book that we've only read about in 3 and 4. Yeah, of course we're not going to remember that character, and you're expecting us to believe that character is connected to that. This book has an obvious ending, but not an obvious conclusion. And that's what I'll say about that. So that's my number 3 book of 2020. So to get us started on the books, there you go. My number 5, my number 4, my number 3 picks, my number 2, and my number 1. You'll have to wait till Sunday to find out what those are. I have 2 books for you. on that front. So come by Sunday and you'll get my top two picks for 2020. But there you go, wetting your beak a little bit. My number 5 book, Mirrors by Ed Souter. My number 4 book, Maxwell Demon by Al Bachman. And my number 3 book, The Snow Collectors by Tina May Hall. So there you go. That being said, you all kind of know me as a movie guy and that I have distinct taste for movies. And like I was telling you earlier, if you're just joining me, if you missed it, my picks, I watched a lot of movies this year, but probably a quarter of the amount of movies. And I watch a lot because I go to a lot of film festivals and I get a lot of screeners and I do watch quite a bit. And I've probably watched a quarter of the amount of films that I watched in 2019, and probably less than a third of the 1/8 of the films I watched in 2018. So I didn't, I had a lot less good to choose from because you don't, with that volume comes a lot of not so good or just some okay or some, yeah, all right, that was pretty good, but would it make a top 10 list? I don't know, kind of thing. So that being said, I have come up with 5, but I'm throwing you a little tease here. I'm giving you a trick ending here. I will save that for the last thing I talk about today. Let's get into the music, shall we? My top 5 music in indie albums of 2020. I will tell you, with these picks, they're very eclectic. I have an eclectic taste, but I also, because of what I went through this year in 2020, felt like this music was the music that spoke to me. This is the music I needed at the moment I needed it, right? And case in point, my number 5 pick is music that I normally would probably rate a lot higher, 2 or 3, maybe even 1. And in fact, there's another album that is very similar to this album that I did rate a little bit higher this year. And the number 5 pick is more of what I would listen to on just an average, run-of-the-mill year, what I really like, the kind of thing I really enjoy. It's melodic. It's a little bit like it's got elements of thrash and speed metal, and it's got a little bit of metal in it, but this is more of my taste. But the other albums that I've chosen for this list that go 4 to 1 all at some point helped me get through a time that I needed that type of music to get me through. So with that being said, here's my number 5 pick for indie albums of 2020. Let me get it up. Yes, Spirit Adrift, Enlightened in Eternity is my number 5 indie album of 2020. This is an incredibly melodic, just beautiful album to listen to rock out to. You bang your head to it quite a bit. It's just an amazing. It is such great musicianship. I mean, you could hear from that opening riff that goes out throughout the entirety of this album. This album changes gears, though. It has some nice little ballady moments. It has some stronger, like really fierce, like almost death metal tones to it, and it's all centered around. It's kind of got almost a thematic. It's not a concept album, but it has a thematic idea to it, and it's really it's a lot about conquering worlds. And so if you're like into like world building and you like kind of things about fantasy elements and things of that nature, this is one of those incredibly awesome albums for that. It really does have that kind of spirit to it. Spirit Adrift, this is their third full-length album. They do many things like that. You can see the artwork is exceptional on this cover, and of course the weird pink vinyl that comes with it over there. You can see it. Uh, it is just it won't it is it doesn't have memorable like choruses or beats or song. It's just something that you would put on for 40-50 minutes. I think it goes 47 minutes if I'm not mistaken, and just ingest. You would just love it. You might gravitate to one or two songs like I have, but this is one of those ones that I usually play as a full album, not just songs from it. I don't pick and choose. I usually play it all the way through. Sometimes I'll start at certain points, but this is one of those great albums that just you can put on and just it's a party album, what I call, because you put it on in the background and just enjoy, and you'll just randomly bang your head, or you'll go, ooh, that's a cool riff. And that's something that Spirit Adrift is very, very adept at, very cool at. So my number 4 album is a completely 360 departure from this one, but not so far away in that it has the same kind of kick you in the teeth kind of spirit behind it. But this year, I made it a personal mission in 2020 to find a classic hip hop album. Something from like my childhood of the 80s and 90s. I grew up with a lot of great, just awesome hip hop, from Ice Cube, NWA, to Ghetto Boys, to MC Ren, just Ice Cube, Ice T, LL Cool J, and then of course you get into the later incantations of like Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, things of that nature. I really gravitate to Tupac, is probably my all-time favorite, but I just love subtle hip hop. And one of the things that I've learned, that I've really grown to enjoy in, probably about 25 years ago, I really got into it, was like Jurassic 5 and Tribe Called Quest, where they kind of influx different types of music and some R&B, and they do some samplings that are just kind of off the beaten path a little bit and kind of interesting, and make it more of a worldly type of music. And so I was really in search of something, because I just wanted to just rap and just feel that, sometimes you just want to have that, and so I was in search of that. And luckily, early on in the year, about the time I was actually looking for it in June, I found it. And this is my number 4 album of 2020. And if you're an old school classic hip hop fan who loves Tribe Called Quest, who loves De La Soul, who loves bands like that, you will. I think you'll really gravitate toward this one. So.
fork in the road, I took a right. Looking for a spot we can spend the night. We'll get gas in Omaha, we gon' get there in no time. Just missed the rest stop, then I missed the next spot. Pissed in a Starbucks, right by the Best Buy. Free my niggas like Amistad, hell yeah, we done faced all the odds. Gotta get it on my own, can't let life float by. Spent 2 nights in Tucson, couple of wine, don't need the ice. This time I took my own advice, I only want what's meant for I. Shot my hometown, I said peace out. Getting out of Texas for free now. Fly to LAX, I'm a freak out. Trying to do my best not to peak now. Always going up to my head in clouds.
That is my number 4 album of the year, Fat Tony and Tadex Wake Up. This is their first full-length album. They've done 5 EPs, and they've pulled a lot of from what the EPs of what they've done. That song that you just heard was Omaha. That was my favorite song on the album. It goes deeper than that. It's kind of reminiscent of that song Tennessee a lot. Just not as deeply as rooted in the party element of that song. A lot of this, these guys are from Texas, Houston, Texas, and a lot of what they've talked about in this is the observation of how people have kind of in Texas been a little bit more loose about what they're looking at in terms of being in part of the pandemic. And there's great lines in here like, no mask, no thanks kind of lines and things like that, which I found very, very fun and interesting. Especially for an album that came out, I think it was July of 2020. So they were thinking about these things and maybe added them in there. But a lot of what they do and a lot of what they base upon is really what Omaha was about. But they have a lot of great sampling. They've got a lot of great guest appearances from rappers that you might recognize in Houston. This is a really, really great hip hop album. And it is my number 4 album of 2020. My number 3 album, again, we're just going to go another 360. We're going to make another turn. And sometimes, I go back to another part of my childhood and my roots, which was my hardcore punk days. And sometimes you just need something that just has some growling and some yelling but still musically is phonetic and has some good beats to it, not just stuff that just is noise. And hardcore, I found, usually has those kind of things. It has a good tempo, a good beat, and this is no exception. My number 3 album of 2020. So my number 3 album of 2020, mil-spec's World House. And I'm going to tell you some interesting things about this album that also gravitated me toward this band and why I think they're really cool. Number 1 is all their proceeds to anything that they gather from Bandcamp. So if you go and buy this album on Bandcamp, they give to Black Lives Matter. They are very much the activist group. They talk a lot about, injustice and, inhumanity, and their songs are geared toward, racial equality and inequality and it's in facing fears. And it's just so cool when you read the lyrics and you start to sing along, you kind of get that, cool, oh, that's awesome that they do that kind of thing. And that's a really cool point. There's a lot of great, sometimes I know we don't typically we like our music and our movies and our books to be escapes, but sometimes, they're anthems and they're field chargers. And I think mil-spec is one of those bands that will charge you up. If you're looking for something that you just need to scream, you just need to just shout at the rooftops, mil-spec is your band. This is so well done. This is artistry. This is old school 90s, even a little bit early 80s, kind of Minor Threat, Agnostic Front kind of idea. They just really kick it into gear, and they never stop. It's 22 minutes long, and it's 10 songs long. That should tell you everything you need to know about how fast this band goes. So that's my number 3 album of 2020. So my number 5 album, Spirit Adrift, Enlightened Eternity, which is a melodic, thrashy speed, sometimes doom, progressive metal band. And then my number 4 pick, Fat Tony and Tatex, which is a hip hop gangster rap. Wake Up is the name of the album. Very cool, from Houston, Texas. And then, of course, mil-spec, my number 3, with World House, my third indie album of the year. My number 2 and number 1. Yes, guess what? You have to wait till Sunday to find those out. And I've got 2 really, really cool ones. One that we're going to talk a lot about because it's on that cusp of what I was talking about earlier. Is it indie? Should it be considered indie? So that's the case. Let's go to some of these. Ed is someone I want to read next year. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. His poetry is really awesome, Josh. You'll really dig it. Decent bars. I saw that you were talking about Tatex and Wake Up. That's great stuff. That's reminiscent of Omaha. Is probably their best laid track on there, but they've got some really cool stuff there. And then Regine says he's digging that track. Yeah, mil-spec. I think, Regine, you would really like mil-spec. You should check it out. And like I said, if you go to the Bandcamp link, which I'll send to you, or I'll put it in the description. If you go to the Bandcamp link and download it there, you can help them help Black Lives Matter if that's important to you. So enjoy that. All right, everybody. Well, I know I've teased you enough. So let's get on with my movie picks, my 5, 4, and 3. And yes, of course, 2 and 1, you'll have to wait till Sunday for. But here is my number 5 film of 2020. This was the year of the documentary, and 2 of them made my list. 2 of them I saw at Slamdance, so they've been on my list all year long. I was really looking to see if they would stay on there because Park City gave me such a great hope that we were in for the best movie year of the year. There's a lot of films I had on there at the beginning of the year that didn't stay on, but this one made it, and it is great. So here is my number 5 pick for indie movie of 2020.
Would you like to be in my documentary about women?
What advice can you give me in my search to find love again? How's marriage working out? Are you single? Do you date?
No, I have a boyfriend.
Do you consider yourself a feminist?
Well, I'm female, so naturally.
Because it ended up lasting 6 hours. So
you had a 6-hour orgasm.
Yeah, I did.
So you're going to ask me anything about film and photography?
Yes. Is anything missing from your life?
Well, I mean, I don't have a boyfriend. Like, I guess I have a boyfriend missing from my life. But I'm not, like, I don't really want one.
Steve Markle's Pursuit of Love, Shoot to Marry was my number 5 film of 2020. That documentary does not do Steve justice. He is a character, and he is just the most sincere, and he's a very beautiful soul. And he is amazing at capturing moments. And he's the coolest thing about what I really loved about this documentary that made me choose it over a couple others I was considering at the spot was that a lot of times with documentaries, when they turn the camera on, when you're turning a camera on yourself or you're turning it on another subject where you're involved with that subject, there comes to be kind of this layer of cruelness or this layer of the filmmaker kind of leading you to how you should feel about this person, right? Shoot to Marry, Steve is in front of the camera the entire time. It's very rare. Only time he's not is when he's interviewing these women that he tries to not only interview but date and go on dates with and go on adventures with. He does a lot of really cool stuff in doing this pursuit. And with this, he is not afraid to look goofy. He's not afraid to look silly, desperate, interesting. There's an incredible shot in this film where it pans out from him and he's doing nothing, and looks like the world is coming down on top of him. It is so beautiful. It's so amazing. It is so poignant. It is just really, really amazing. You can get this film on Amazon Prime, and you can also go check out. I interviewed Steve at Slamdance in 2020. Our 2020 Slamdance interviews, Steve Markle, Shoot to Marry is there, and you can go check it out as well. We go into depth a little bit more about the risks he took and the interesting angles he took in this film. Very cool. Saw this earlier, looked interesting. Yes, it's very cool. It's a very interesting film. I think you, Josh, of all people, would probably really appreciate it and dig it, because Steve is not afraid to put himself out there, and it shows. It just pays off, and I think it's amazing. So that being said, my number 4 film of 2020 is a film that just came out recently, that I just saw recently, and it snuck in there. It is, again, that film that I was telling you about earlier that is getting a ton of praise, getting put on a lot of top 10 lists of just movies of the year lists. And it is a movie that's very popular, and that's because Amazon's backing it. Nothing I can do about that. It was a movie that made Toronto Film Festival. It made the Mill Creek Film Festival. In fact, I think it debuted at Mill Creek, if I'm not mistaken. That was its world premiere. But Toronto had, or maybe it was its U.S. premiere, and Toronto became its world premiere. I'm not quite sure how they made that work, or if that's the case. But this film is amazing. It is heart-wrenching. It is gut-punching. It is so fascinating, and has so many layers and so many different little nuances that make it not about what you think it's really about. It's just one of those cool films that examines a personal journey at a time in their life when they need to just kind of figure it out. It's really cool. So this is my number 4 pick of 2020 for best films. Here you go.
You sound great.
Yeah, right.
What? You telling me you weren't feeling it? You were in it.
We don't need to put them all out.
I know, but we just need to film.
Your hearing is deteriorating rapidly.
We'll come back. Till then, Lou, we just keep going, okay?
No.
Lou,
No.
let's play tomorrow. Let's see what it's like, okay? I'm gonna be like a click track. You can play to me.
You have to understand, your first responsibility
hear you. Do you understand me? I can't. I'm deaf. I'm deaf.
I found a place.
I think it's important that you stay here with us right now, Ruben. We're looking for a solution to this. Not this.
I need you to wait for me, okay? You're it for me, Lou. You're my heart. You're it for me, okay? You gotta wait for me. Trying to save my life.
Ruben, the world does keep moving. It can be a damn cruel place. But those moments of stillness, when this crappy, mundane world suddenly becomes radiant and magnificent, all the fear is gone. That place will never abandon you.
My number 4 film of 2020, Sound of Metal. And it is awesome. Riz Ahmed gives the performance, probably my second or third favorite performance of the year. That is the gentleman you saw who was losing his hearing. It's all about a drummer who loses his hearing, who's kind of dealing with, life changing on him and evolving, and him kind of stuck in a rut. And he comes across learning about, how to be deaf or dealing with it, and in the way that only Ruben can deal with it. And it's beautiful. Dakota Johnson from Walking Dead fame. Some of you may know her. She's in this film as well. And it is just amazing. It is a first-time director. Him and his brother wrote the script. It is everything you want to be. I will tell you right now, if you are somebody who gets emotional, gets drawn into these kind of things, and you're not prepared for it, have some tissue ready. Just have some things ready. It's an amazing look at a personal journey and an internal journey. And they do an incredible job of taking you along the ride with Riz and all the Ruben, the character he plays. And there was a reason why you saw subtitles in the trailer, because it is making sure that it has some awareness for the deaf. And so that was important to the director. So this is an absolutely, yes. Julia, I think you would really dig it though, Julia. I think it's one of those movies you would really, really gravitate toward. And when I say crier, it's kind of, tears will be drawn, smiles will be drawn, gasps will be drawn. I mean, this is just a roller coaster of a film, and it's so beautiful. It is amazing to think about a movie that relies on not having sound, a lot of it, because you're seeing a lot of this from Ruben's perspective. So there's just this amazing underlying idea behind that, and it's just so brilliant. Olivia Cook, who plays the girlfriend, is super awesome, and I gotta give a shout out to Paul Racy, who I hope will actually I will be talking to soon. I've reached out to him actually. And Paul is amazing in this film. He plays the leader of the group that Ruben goes to see to get help. And it's awesome. It's fantastic. All right. So let's move on to our number 3 film of 2020. As I see time is going by. But this is my number 3 film of 2020. And I will tell you, this number 3, 2, and 1 were interchangeable at many times. Well, actually, 2 and 3 were very, very interchangeable from time to time. And in fact, right before I settled on 3 and 2, I switched them back and forth a few times. One was a little bit more solid, but I did at some points with 2. The one I settled in on 2 slotted in there as a number 1. So that's why this one was 3 and the other one was 2, because I felt like 2 had moments where I could have seen it as the number 1 film, whereas this one I didn't really see it as the number 1 film. But between 3 and 2, it was really close and really interesting. This is a cool ass, just a thriller that takes you for a ride in a car. If you've ever been afraid or wondering about Uber, or heard things about Uber, this is a movie that will teach you a little bit about that. They don't call it Uber, obviously, for obvious reasons, but it's a film I saw at CineQuest, and I got to interview the filmmaker and the main actors in this film, who also, I think, give incredible performances, and you can check that interview out on our page and our CineQuest interviews as well. So here's my 3rd favorite movie of 2020.
Hi, this is Allison Myers. I'm following up about the job opening in your design department. No, I already submitted a resume. No, I understand. It's already been filled. I see.
You enjoy your job?
This isn't really my job. I'm an architect. Just had setbacks. Come on, Neil. Are you Neil?
That's right.
That's not you.
If we could get moving. Yeah, I have it. It'll be inside a black bag. She is, but she'll be gone by the time I get there. You think it'd be possible to pull over?
We're almost there.
I'm afraid I'm gonna have to insist.
What can I do for you, officer?
Looking for a pair of earrings. Emily Jane. Last week she was stabbed 8 times.
It's a very nice bracelet you have on.
I feel like something really bad is going to happen.
What about you, little Miss Driver? What are you really about?
Let me ask you something. What's been the worst night of your life? I'm not that scary, am I?
My number 3 film of 2020, Fox Hunt Drive, Drew Walkup's incredible directorial debut here. Is so good. This movie is layered with different things, and just when you think you've got it all figured out, you don't. And just when you think this is going to happen, it doesn't. And this happens instead, and it's just really cool. It's just this incredibly cool cat and mouse between 2 people, and the interesting ride that they go on. It is just it is my favorite writing of the year. I just really think it's the best written film I've seen this year by far. That would be just. It's just really well done. It's awesome. So Fox Hunt Drive, and I will tell you right now, if you foxhuntdrive.com, they are in a online film festival that you can go and watch their film at any time on demand through that film festival to the end of the year. So if you want to go check that film out, you can go do so right now. Again, I'll put all the links in the descriptions, but that's my 5. My 5 was Shoot to Marry. My 4, which was a documentary. My 4 was Sound of Metal, which is a drama. And then 3, which is a thriller, Fox Hunt Drive. For my 2 and 1, you're going to have to come and see us on December 27th, noon Eastern. It is This Year in Indies. That is right. Our final Sunday show of 2020 will be recapping the year that was, talking a little bit about what constitutes being indie to make the list. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I have two guests joining me who will be giving me their top 5 books and top 5 albums, and or some of their favorites of the year. I don't want to presume that they're going to do a top 5, but and then I'll give you my 1 and 2 for each, and I will also on Sunday give you my 3 favorite indie brews of 2020. So I picked 3 indie brews that I will feature on that show, so that you can grab yourself a beer for the New Year's Eve if you're interested in supporting an indie brewery. So those will all happen on December 27th, Sunday at noon Eastern. I got you, Josh. I think it would be a fun chat for you. Thank you, sir. But that being said, that was my picks for 2020, my last rant of 2020 earlier on, and hopefully you enjoyed my little intro. So now here is the fun thing for you all. I've seen Julia, I've seen Josh, I've seen Anita, I've seen Rebecca join me. I think that's Regine join me as well. If you're here and you haven't said hello, you want to do so now, because I'm taking notice of who's here. So I'll give you a second to do just that. But for you all, I have a special treat for joining me tonight and being here, and I really appreciate that you were. And that is, you're going to be the first people to get the links to the new sign-up sheets for the new shows in 2021. So our fall schedule has not been published yet. Our shows I will be publishing soon, but the signups will go out very soon, and we'll start with our group and then move our way through to a more broader sense. I always give my group priority, but since you all were here first, you all get priority. You will have the first crack at that list, and you'll enjoy. Hopefully, you will sign up for some shows and be a part of what we do here at GoIndieNow. I know a lot of you will, and in doing so, you will be the only ones with that link. So at least for about a week. So when you get that link, which I will send you either probably later today or tomorrow, you will be able to sign up first and take a look at the shows that we're offering for 2021. With that being said, it has been a year. Nice. Yay! Hi, Rebecca. I already said it. I said hello. I mentioned you. You were on my list, of course. But thank you for saying hello. And yes, hi, Julia. I'm not singing yet, Regine. Funny thing is, I'm working on karaoke. I'm going to a friend's wedding next year, and I'm working on a karaoke. So I had my first karaoke practice, you could say, last night. I worked on it a little bit and saw what I could do on karaoke, and saw how difficult karaoke really was. Oh my gosh. I was surprised by that. But maybe when I get better and more proficient, I'll do an actual she just wanted to sing hello. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. That's awesome. When I get better at, maybe I'll come on and do a karaoke night. We'll have everybody come on and do a little karaoke for Joe Gets Twitchy. Why not? There's no rules or set rules on the show. Maybe we'll do Joe's Bar. We'll do a karaoke night at Joe's Bar for everybody. We'll do some indie songs, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure all that out. But that would be a fun show, wouldn't it, everybody? Anyway, that being said, I thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for the year. Thank you so much for the support. Love you all. And as you know, it is always time to go indie now, especially into 2021. With that being said, I bid you adieu. Good night, everybody.